What's up, YouTube friends? Now Christmas is approaching fast. So today I'm going to show you how to make these quick and easy personalized stockings. They're super fast and super quick. It's totally lined and they whip up in a snap. Now I have about 10 to 15 of these little stockings that I need to make for friends and family, so I need to get in gear. So the things that you're going to need to make these fast, quick, simple, easy stockings are: you will need 1/3 of a yard of your outside fabric and 1/3 of the yard for the lining fabric. Now as you can see on this one here, we're going to fold over our lining fabric to make the cuff. That's why I chose white and red, but you could use any fabric that you want. Just keep in mind that the lining fabric will also be the cuff fabric. Now from our scraps of our outside fabric, or really any fabric you choose, you're also going to want to cut a rectangle that measures 2.5 inches by 6 inches. This will become our loop. Now as you can see here, I went ahead and personalized these with the initial of the recipient's name. So if you choose to do that, you're also going to need some heat and bond. I have the no-sew kind, because I wanted this to be fast and easy. So you're going to need a piece of fabric of your choice for the initial. I wanted my letters about 2 inches long, so just rummage through your scrap bin and find some fabric. Now you're also going to need some sort of stocking template. I went ahead and just traced this one out on a cereal box and cut it out. It happens to be about 6 inches long by about 9 inches wide. Now I wanted these somewhere kind of in the middle. I didn't want it to be a full-size stocking, and I didn't want it to be too small either. So I'll go ahead and make a PDF for this and stick it down below. But like I said, you can make these any size you want. You're also going to need your sewing machine with thread. I'll be using white today, and your ironing board. So let's get started. Alright guys, so the very first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and cut out my stocking pattern. Now like I said, you only need 1/3 of a yard per stocking if you're making them the size that I have. So I have it right as it came off the bolt. So it's folded in half. So that way I'll get 2 reds and 2 whites. Alright guys, so now I'm just going to go ahead and cut out my stocking pattern with my rotary cutter. You could use scissors if you want, but I find this makes it a lot easier. Like I said, I have 10 to 15 of these to make, so I need to get my buns in gear. Alright guys, so it should look something like this. I have 2 layers of red and 2 layers of white. Now from your scrap piece of red fabric here, go ahead and cut your 2.5 inch by 6 inch rectangle for your loop and set that off to the side for just a minute. Alright guys, so now we're just going to sew our lining and our front facing fabric together. So what you want to do is lay your fabrics pretty sizes together. Now with this white and red, there really isn't a front or a back, so it might get kind of confusing. If this was a print that you could tell, it makes it a lot easier. But for me, I want one of these facing this way and one facing the opposite direction. I'm then going to lay my red on top of that, lining them up on both pieces. Just like that. Now I'm going to take this over to my sewing machine, and with a 1/4 inch seam allowance, I'm going to go ahead and sew all the way across the top. Now you don't have to backstitch at this moment because this seam will be enclosed in another seam. If you need to, you can throw in a couple pins here, but at this point, it's really not that necessary. Alright guys, so when you open it up, it should look something like this. So now I'm going to take these over to my ironing board, and I'm going to press one seam over to the white, and on this other one I'm going to press the seam over to the red. That way when we sew these together, your seams will nestle nice right here. Alright, so I have one seam pressed over to the red and one over to the white. So now you just want to flip this over so the pretty side is touching. And we're going to lay this one right over the top, matching up this seam. If you just kind of wiggle your fabric up here, You can tell that they lock in pretty good. So now just stick a pin. Alright guys, so now I'm just going to line up all my edges here, and I'm going to pin. I'm going to leave a 2 to even a 3-inch opening here for turning purposes. But go ahead and put pins all the way around, leaving that open. Alright guys, so I have a swap out here that I went ahead and pinned all together. So now I'm just going to start right here, leaving my opening open. And with that same 1/4 inch seam allowance and straight stitch, I'm going to stitch all the way around. Now when you get to these round parts here, you just want to go slow and then spin your project. Alright guys, so I'm over here at my sewing machine. Like I said, I'll be using a straight stitch. My length is a 2 and my width is a 0. I'm going to backstitch at the beginning and the end here. And just so. When I get to this round section here, you just want to go really slow and spin your fabric. Alright guys, so I'm coming up to my last pin. Don't forget to backstitch. Alright guys, so I went all the way around, leaving my opening, and I left the opening on the lining side. Alright guys, so I'm going to take my pinking shears here, and I'm going to pink all the way around my stocking here, not going through the seam I just sewed. But I'm going to leave my opening unpinked, that way there's a little extra fabric there to sew down when we close our opening. So I'm just going to start here at the toe part, and pink. Now if you don't have pinking shears, what you're going to want to do, especially around the toe section and this curve right here, is go ahead and cut little notches out. That way this will lay nice and flat when we turn it right side out. But like I said, I'm going for fast and easy. So I pinked all the way around, leaving my opening here. And as you can see, maybe right here, I clipped into my seam. But it's no big deal. I just went ahead and backstitched and then took a little wider seam there. So now we want to turn these right side out. So I like to go all the way to the red part's toe. Pull that through. And then push out the lining also. Now to get this to lay nice and flat, I'm going to take this chopstick here and I'm going to push out on the seams. Just like that. Now I'm going to take this over to my ironing board and give it a good press. When I get over here to my opening, I'm just going to kind of tuck in that fabric and keep on ironing. Alright guys, so I have this nice and pressed, and now you just want to go ahead and close this opening. I'm just going to use my sewing machine. I'm going to start right here at the edge. I'm going to backstitch, and I'm going to close it and backstitch. Maybe with an 1/8 inch seam allowance, but if you want it to look nice and pretty, go ahead and just hand sew it. I hate hand sewing, and this is the lining, so no one's ever going to see it. Alright guys, so now I'm just going to close up my opening here. And I'm going to start about 1/4 inch before my opening and backstitch with that same straight stitch. And I'm going to sew until I'm about 1/4 inch on the opposite side of my opening. And I'll be using about an 1/8 inch seam allowance. And backstitch. Alright guys, so now I'm just going to clip my threads here. So now you just want to tuck your lining piece into your stocking. So I'm just going to open it up here and tuck it in. And then go ahead and just stick your hand in there and make sure everything's laying nice and flat. And we want the seam from the lining and our stocking piece, the red, to be right at the top. Just like that. Now go ahead and give it another good press. Now as you can see, our stocking shape is coming together. So the next thing I'm going to do is take this over to my sewing machine with the same straight stitch. I'm going to go ahead and with a 1/4 inch seam allowance, I'm going to start right here at this back seam, and I'm going to sew all the way around the top here. Alright guys, so now I'm just going to top stitch the top of my cuff here. And I like to take off my accessory tray first. And I'm going to start right here at the back seam. Now I'll be using that same straight stitch with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And don't forget to backstitch at the beginning and the end. Alright, so I top stitched all the way around here. So now we're going to fold down our fabric to make our cuff. So I'm going to go ahead and measure about 3 inches down, which is right here, and flip it. Alright, so that looks good to me right there. Now you just want to make sure that it looks nice and straight up here at the top, so you don't have a wonky looking stocking. Alright, so now I'm just going to take this over to my ironing board, and I'm going to iron a crease right here at the top of the cuff. Now I'm just going to set this off to the side for just a minute, and you want to grab your rectangle piece of fabric. So now to make the loop, we're just going to fold this in half, the hot dog way, give it a press. Now we're just going to open it back up and fold each of these raw edges into that crease we just made and press it. Just like that. Now go ahead and fold it on our original crease. And give it a press once more. Now I'm just going to take this over to my sewing machine with that straight stitch, and I'm going to stitch right down here about 1/8 of an inch away from where my 2 folds are. Alright guys, I'm back over here at my sewing machine. So now I'm just going to sew down my loop piece here. And you want to backstitch at the beginning of the end, and I like to do a wider backstitch at the beginning and the end because I will be pinking the edges here. That same straight stitch with the 1/8 inch seam allowance. Just like that. Now I use white, you can go ahead and use red if you want to. So now I'm just going to fold this in half. So now I'm just going to take my pinking shears and I'm going to pink the edge here just to keep it from fraying. So now I'm just going to take my loop here and I'm going to stick it in here. I want it on the back side of the stocking right up next to the seam. Here's my seam, there's my loop. and stick a pin. And I think I probably went down maybe a 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch. So now I'm going to take this back over to my sewing machine, and using that same 1/4 inch seam allowance with that same old straight stitch, I'm going to go ahead and stitch all the way around the top side of my cuff, making sure I catch my loop. Now if you want added security, you can go ahead and back stitch over your loop and then continue to sew all the way around. Alright guys, I'm going to take off my accessory tray one more time. I'm going to start right here at the back seam. Alright guys, so I'll be using that same old straight stitch, back stitching at the beginning and the end, and I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to sew over my loop, back stitch over it, and then continue to sew all the way around. Alright guys, so our stocking is almost complete. Now like I said, this next part is completely optional, but since I have so many of these to make, and it's kind of a simple design, I want to add a little personalization to each one of my stockings. So I went to Google and I printed off these letters here, but they weren't the size that I wanted. It would be perfect if you wanted to stick it up here on the cuff, but I kind of wanted it down here. So I went ahead and scanned them to my computer, and I blew them up so they're about 2.5 inches to 3 inches wide. So then I got a piece of my heat and bond, and the heat and bond has a glue side, which is bumpy, and a paper side. Now if I was thinking when I printed these off, I would have went ahead and flipped the image so that my letters are backwards. But since I did not do that, what I'm going to have to do is I flipped my paper over. I put my heat and bond up against my paper with the glue side facing down, and I just went ahead and stuck this on a window. If you have a light box, that will work, and I traced my letter. Now following the manufacturer's instructions, I then went ahead and I glued my heat and bond to the wrong side of my fabric. And since I'm using this black, there really isn't a wrong or right side. You can see this is a G here, and it's backwards. So now I'm just going to take my applique scissors. I find these help really good when you're cutting out these little appliques. And I'm going to cut out my letter. Alright guys, so it should look like this. So now what I'm going to do is peel off the paper backing. And that will expose the glue. So now I'm just going to come down about 1.5 inches from my cuff. Just like that. And I'm going to hit it with my iron for 6 to 8 seconds. That's per the manufacturer's instructions. And when you're cutting out your letters, you want to make sure you have a nice, crisp, clean cut. I am not going to sew these down. I have the no-sew kind of fusible heat and bond. So you just don't want no jagged edges because that's going to show. And now my letter isn't going anywhere. Now I don't know if you can see it on camera, but with this red fabric, when it gets hot, it turns this darker red. Don't worry, I did not burn my fabric. When it cools down, it will look just like this one. Now I hope you give this fast and easy project a try. Like I said, this will be a great little gift for someone special that you really don't have to go out of your way to do anything really grand, but a little personalized stocking is perfect. If you like this video and want to see more of my videos, go down below and hit the big red subscribe button and give this video a big thumbs up. If you have a question about this video or any of my other videos, or would like to leave a suggestion for a future upcoming video, leave me a comment. Feel free to share this video across your social medias. And as always, thanks for watching, happy holidays, and I'll see you next time.